I am now really delighted to introduce you to Alex Peacock, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Sweatworks. Alex will be leading the next session, the debate, is the hybrid model here to stay? So delighted to introduce you, pass you over to Alex.
Thanks, Izzy, and thanks for having me on the panel today. Congratulations on a great event so far. It's been a great morning, and I'm hoping that we can keep the momentum up as we move into our debate on the future of the hybrid fitness model. So we've all heard this phrase, the hybrid model, endlessly over the last couple of years. So what we'd like to explore today is really, what does the future of this look like? So we've got some great panelists joining us today who I'll introduce shortly, and we're going to be exploring really a long-term future of the hybrid model and what it means for the future of products and programming. So just a little bit about me. As Izzy said, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Sweatworks. I've been in and around the technology part of the fitness industry for the best part of the last 2 decades. So I've been with Sweatworks for just over a year. Prior to that, I was CEO of a company called NetPulse, which is a white label mobile provider for the fitness industry. And prior to that, I ran a media company, Zoom Media, specializing in fitness for a decade. So I've been really on the sort of the technical side of the industry for my whole career. Just a quick bit about Sweatworks. If you haven't heard of us before, we are a software and hardware technology agency based in Washington, DC, but very much a global company. And we work exclusively with consumer and commercial fitness and wellness brands around the world. So as well as building tech for established brands like Beachbody and Equinox and Strava, we've designed and manufactured a number of connected fitness products for new omni-channel brands like Climber and City Row and Mixed Fitness. So hybrid and omni-channel is very much a part of our core competency. And our team, which is about 180 people globally, is really made up of experts in software engineering, product development, design and creative, connected hardware manufacturing, and data and AI engineering, all really sort of core ingredients of omni-channel and connected fitness experiences. So whether it's just building an app or a website for a fitness brand, creating an omni-channel experience, or launching a connected fitness product from scratch, those are the sort of areas that we get involved in. But more importantly, at Sweatworks, we're really proud to partner with UK Active to support their Digital Futures program. And if you haven't heard of Digital Futures before, it's really a sort of a critical initiative for the UK market in understanding digital maturity and effectiveness across the sector. And what it's doing is it's really laying the foundations to help operators across the board to understand better the changing consumer need and changing expectations around digital, as well as the readiness of their own businesses and their own systems to accommodate these changing needs. And so the goal of the Digital Futures consultation is really to provide a reference point to build out a clear path forward for the industry to better serve the changing needs of the consumer. And from that, it's going to help to define areas that are in need of government support, regulatory change, and also really provide a sort of a sector-wide blueprint to allow every organization in the fitness industry to undertake its own successful digital transformation journey. And I think the thing that really resonates for us about Digital Futures is that the program is ultimately about using technology to meet the changing consumer need. And that's really, really closely aligned with the way that we view technology at Sweatworks, which is about putting the consumer at the heart of the experience. And in the spirit of using consumer research to support that development, before we jump into the panel today, I just wanted to explore a couple of recent data points, which I think are relevant as we look to debate the future of the hybrid model today with our panelists. So the first one is this market size data from the Global Wellness Institute. And I just want to use this to give a bit of context, because for the last 2 years, everybody has been talking about at-home fitness. And the reason for that is because the market has doubled in size or doubled in size in 12 months across 2019 to 2020. But for context, it's still only 10% of the size of the commercial fitness industry. And if you look at physical activity sector more widely, the global physical activity sector is over 820 billion. So really, it puts into perspective the scale of at-home fitness in the context of the wider fitness and physical activity sector. And I think that what that illustrates is that as an industry, we have a huge opportunity to leverage our scale and the depth of our experience that we have over decades of servicing the consumer and their fitness and wellness needs. We have a huge opportunity to leverage that going forward. So I just wanted to highlight that initially. And the second thing that I wanted to do is really talk a little bit more about the consumer. And at Sweatworks, we talk a lot about the evolved consumer. And what this means is, the pandemic has evolved consumer behavior at a rate that we have never seen before. But that evolution isn't all the same. It falls into different categories. And these are the sort of three categories that we define. So some of the change is permanent, and people aren't going back to the way that they were before. Some of it is temporary, and it will regress at different rates and different paces as society returns to normal. And this third group is what we call connected evolution. And what this means is that the consumer wants to return to doing the things they did before, but they expect their experience to be changed and to be improved by technology. And a really good example of this is the hospitality industry. So in the UK, at least, pre-COVID, pubs and bars, you would expect to go and queue at the bar to order your food and drink. And then, it may or may not come to your table. But with the restrictions that were imposed during the pandemic, the hospitality industry clamored to implement at-table ordering systems, mobile ordering, table service, almost overnight. And I've had many conversations with friends where we've agreed that actually one of the things that we hope does stick around post-pandemic is this convenience of ordering that's come in. So we still want to go back to pubs and bars and do all of the things that we did before, but we expect the experience and we want the experience to be more digitally connected. And I think that's a really relevant analogy for us as an industry with the way that we look at hybrid experiences going forwards. Now, I'd like to share a little bit of research from McKinsey, which is about the expected permanence of these habit changes. And as you'll see here, some of them are very clearly temporary. So public transport use will largely bounce back to where it was, wearing masks will fade, hopefully divorce levels will return to where they were before. But expectations around things like online shopping and consumption of digital entertainment and move towards a cashless society, these expectations have changed forever and they're not going back to the way they were. But what we're really interested in as an industry is this one here, which is the permanent need for more on-demand well-being. But on-demand doesn't have to mean digital only. So what we'd like to explore today really is the answer to this question: is the hybrid model here to stay? And so over the past 2 years, the industry and the studio market has learned that virtual can work. We've looked at very sort of tactical ways of bringing services to market in a very short way. Our equivalents of those pubs hurrying out and putting in the at-home ordering systems. We've done a lot of that, but now we need to look at what does that mean for the future. And today's studio brands, boutique brands, commercial fitness brands want to be more than virtual. It's about creating and it being much more experiential and creating an experience around the brand. And my colleague Peter Croft from Perfect Gym sums it up well. He talks about moving from being a place of convenience to being a brand of choice. And I think that's a really good kind of way of looking at how we embrace digital. And so as we do this, we talk about omnichannel, we talk about hybrid experiences, but what does this really mean in practice? So at Sweatworks, we talk about the 4 pillars of connected fitness. And I think this is an applicable way to sort of frame it as we go into the panel discussion. So these 4 pillars are connected hardware, whether that's in the home or in a studio, creating a more digitally connected hardware experience. The second one is multimedia, video and music. Amazing video experiences, amazing music content, interactive content to bring an experience to life. The third pillar is wearable integration. So beyond just amazing streaming technology and amazing experiences, the ability to take your fitness journey with you wherever you are. And then the fourth one is community. So how do you capture the essence of your physical brand in more of a digital or virtual way, and at the same time provide a more personalized and customized experience to your members? So I'm delighted to be joined by some leading lights in the movement on that today on our panel. And they're going to be sharing some more of their thoughts and experiences over the last couple of years, and really how they see the hybrid model in their business moving forward. So first off, I'm joined by Andrew Charalambous, who's the owner of Ignite Gym. Also Christian Dietrich, co-founder and managing director of June, and John Penny, managing director at Third Space. So it's going to be an interactive session today. We are live. This is not pre-recorded. So if you have any questions for the panel as we go along, please feel free to add them into the chat. We will do our best to get through them over the next 30 to 45 minutes. But before we do that, and before we kick off, I just wanted to take a few minutes for the panel to introduce themselves. So without further ado, Andrew, over to you.
Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate your interest in us at Ignite. So my name's Andrew. I'm one of the directors at Ignite. Unlike some of the other fantastic panelists that we have here today, we're relatively new. We started our journey in April of last year. As we came out of lockdown, that's when we launched our business. This was a 5-year plan that took us up to April 2020, and we've opened a boutique in Hertfordshire, and we serve our local community, and we've got to know them incredibly well. What we pride ourselves on is our connection with our members and creating that sense of community. So we create an environment that's safe and enjoyable and fun. So we invite people who may have had difficult experiences during lockdown, getting back to their feet and on their exercise regimes. And we create a space that complements everyone in that sense. That includes our gym floor and our studios. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Christian, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Christian Dietrich, co-founder of June, and MD there. We didn't prepare quite as long as Andrew, but for us also it was a run-up of about 2 years, and actually we started in 2021, let's say between lockdowns in Germany, opening our first place up and continuing from there. Now we as a concept pretty much set on a attractive, convenient and highly effective form of exercise where you can pretty much check out the mind at the front door. And therefore, this is a very much a local a business and not digitally, let's say, pre-organized. So we had to adjust a good bit, because as you then get into the new experience, we also had to amend the concept, and we'll talk about that later. But that is the quick intro to June.
Thanks, Christian. Great to have you on the panel. And last but not least, John.
Thanks, Alex. And hello, everyone. It's great to be on this panel having this discussion. A little bit different to Christian and Andrew. I'm the managing director of Third Space. Third Space is a London-centric, full-service, premium luxury health brand that's been around for over 20 years now. So our first club opened in Soho, in the heart of central London. Actually, coincidentally, our newest club opened in Mayfair, which is just down the road from our original club, back in November. So we really pride ourselves on the sort of best-in-class experience, from group exercise to personal training. And we also have our own healthy food brand called Natural Fitness Food. So we're really aimed at, looking after busy Londoners, working at pace and striving hard to be their personal best and enjoying their fitness experience. So we've been around for a while, pre-pandemic, survived the pandemic, and come out the other side. And with Boris appearingly bringing everything to a close in terms of COVID and COVID restrictions, seeing a bit of a resurge to the capital within our clubs at the moment. But we'll talk more about that later on. Great to be on the panel. Looking forward to the discussion.
Lovely, thanks, John. And yes, it's awesome to have three panelists with very different experiences and very different backgrounds. So just looking forward to kind of exploring how those different experiences have kind of colored your thinking. So without further ado, let's dive into a few questions. So just really to start things off, what I'd like to understand is what omnichannel means to you as an individual and as a brand, and what do you think are the positives and negatives of adopting this approach to fitness? So John, start with you on that one.
Sure. I think omnichannel, for us, it's Third Space is all about a collection of experiences, and I think, prior to the pandemic, that was probably a collection of experiences held within the club four walls. Whereas I think omnichannel for us now means beyond the four walls. So it's not just what happens in the club. It's not just some of the products that we've developed digitally. It's about what happens outside the club. It's about events. It's about vacations, staycations. Emma was talking a lot about this earlier. So it's really just more than digital and in-club experiences. It's about how we can connect, with our members and build upon what was once, I guess, traditional in-club experiences beyond the four walls through kind of a multiple of platforms. That's certainly how I look at it, and certainly how I think our brand looks at it, in terms of some of the plans, we have to connect, with our members in multiple ways as we move forward.
And do you see it generally as an essential model for the future?
I think that depends on a few things. I think it depends on the type of business, and where you are located. I think, for Third Space being, London centric, if we were to do nothing more than just open the clubs and run business as normal, we'd be okay at the moment, because we've got at this point in time, people are delighted to get back out. They're delighted to get back to clubs. So we're seeing a surge. We're seeing, the capacities that were once restricted, for using the clubs and going to classes, all sort of within reason going back to normal. So at the moment, you'd argue if we dropped our digital products and maybe didn't do some of the things that I described, the business would probably be okay. However, moving forward, And I'll use actually, Alex, your F&B analogy was a very good one, because my local restaurants during the pandemic, of course, like many businesses, pivoted to Deliveroo and Uber Eats, whereas they weren't doing that previously. Now they've all opened up again, and not only are they full, but they've got a separate section where they're running all of their Uber Eats and Deliveroo. So naturally, by that experience, they've learned to do that, both for revenue purposes, but to grow their reach and penetration. So I think if you've got one eye on the future, is it essential right now? Maybe not for us, but critical in terms of demographics we're trying to engage with, and revenues we're trying to realize and grow as we move forward. Got it. Makes sense. And so, Andrew, I'd like to come to you next, because you don't have the, you're in a very different situation in that your business has been created with the reality of today, and so you don't have the preconceptions or the before and after, and you don't have this kind of expectation of pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, that it's just the new normal is just the normal for you. So I'd love to know, to what extent or how you view omnichannel in your business, having been able to kind of consider it from that point of view, and then again, just the pros and cons of that, as it relates to fitness.
Sure. So for us, we've just kind of seen growth since April of last year. With regards to omnichannel, we really kind of set our focus on our community. We're quite strict in terms of our catchment area, and within that, how we kind of present ourselves. That for us is how we see omnichannel, and it's the consistency of our brand. So we like to work alongside our community partners, whether they're schools or our local football team, and we want to elevate them so that they feel like they're part of us. So we have a culture within the club to kind of almost inspire and elevate people so that they have a great experience the moment they walk through the door. So that's the environment that we've created through the interior design, through to our kind of engaging our fun nights with our DJs, and the experiences that we kind of create in that sense. So we try to kind of build on that as much as possible. So when we speak with our community in person, or if we are online and we kind of have a message, we try to kind of keep things consistent. So that for us is also really important, is to kind of keep that messaging on point.
Got it. And then Christian, your market, obviously, markets have opened up in different ways at different times, and we've seen closures and reopenings and everything happening in different markets. So I'm really interested to kind of learn a bit more about the view from Germany, particularly in the context of what does omnichannel look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would look at it as the various communication channels available to us. So where our offer was pretty much, and still is, a more club-based offer, we still wanted to have various ways of reaching out to our customers. So in other words, whether that is an online offer, whether that is the in-app offer, and whether we communicate also through that medium. But omnichannel to me would mean all relevant channels available to, let's say, engage with our customers. So that's not everything available out there, but for us, the relevant ones that we could use. And given the fact, I think we'll talk a bit later about how that will evolve. What I do believe, if you ask the question, is it what's the positive and negative of it? I think what is great is that essentially we've accelerated as a society the development of being able to stay in touch with people through all the digital media that we have, so that we can engage them better, and they have sort of sped up the adaptation and the acceptance for that first, because they had to, and now because they had a taste of it. I also like the food and beverage example. you've had a taste of it and you're like, wow, I can do it this way as well. I'm gonna keep looking for that. Last but not least, I don't see a negative really coming out of it, other than that I don't believe that we should overload with impulses and stimuli, but I think everybody can manage that just fine. So I don't see a real negative, and I do see this as the way going forward.
Got it. And I think, so you talked there a lot about social interactions and maintaining that. So one of the areas that I wanted to explore really is community. And one thing that's really at the heart of all of your businesses is community. And it's such an important touch point, specifically in the independent gym and boutique space. And so what I'm interested in is your thoughts on how do we replicate some of these touch points in a hybrid offering? And do you think that having that hybrid experience detracts from the overall boutique experience? So Andrew, I'll come to you first on that.
Sure. The way we look at it, actually, the way we've experienced it, I should say, is that we've set up our experience to be as available online as possible. So we have 3D tours built into our website. And at first, that was really helpful for some of our more sensitive members who were cautious about coming in person. And that helped them kind of move closer towards us. And that was great. So we saw that people were taking our 3D tours, experiencing the building, and then they signed up and became members. So that was a great stepping stone in terms of getting them closer towards us. In terms of how we see the hybrid model working for us, is that rather than having that at the forefront and making that a connection between us and our members, we actually like to kind of leverage our software so that it releases our team members time to build real relationships with our members. So we see that, our CRMs, our automations, our messaging, a lot of that almost relieves our team so that they don't necessarily take away from the relationships that we build in person. So that's how we kind of see it at the club. Got it.
And Christian, does that kind of tie in with how you think about community in a hybrid way?
Yes, it does. Maybe connecting to what Andrew said, we specifically developed and implemented our technology in a way so that it would be so that the staff would have the hands free pretty much completely, other than of course signing up new members and answering questions of incoming calls, but to have their hands free to engage with the customer every time that they come in, and in that way build community. For us, that was a very important factor that also seems to work quite well.
Yeah, I like that. So John, how do you capture the essence of your brand in an at-home experience? You're muted, John.
That's happened once, didn't it? Yeah, I think it's certainly a lot more polished now than in March 2020, when I think everybody just moved to Instagram straight away and did the best that they could in a room in their house. I think what we've learned, and this was, I think, some of the things you were talking earlier about, Alex, to do with music and touch points and quality. Probably the thing that we've tried to do, particularly with our group exercise product to start with, is make it feel like you're looking at a third space studio and a third space instructor. So, simple things like we've got a lot of black finishes in our studio with particular style of lighting. So, we converted one of our studios to mirror that effect. And of course, we've used as many of our popular instructors as possible, to do all of our different products in a digital environment, and use the same, quality of soundtrack and overlay and editing with the programming. So, now when you dial in through the app, it very much feels like, you know, you're having your favorite class with Kate, and you'll even recognize, you know, some of the regular tunes that she plays within her classes. So that's you know, from a group exercise perspective, that's something that we focused on, you know, and we focused on it, but it evolved with feedback more and more. I think from the personal training side of things, we've produced, to build on what some of the guys were saying, we've produced quite a lot of video content. So in terms of, you know, one of our big projects was digital onboarding. So how can we onboard, you know, our members who are new to the club, who are keen and hungry to consume information, you know, using digital assets. We've got we're lucky enough to have an education team. And so we work with those guys to build a script around, you know, referencing the club, referencing key touch points, things that they were sold of, and then, you know, delivering workout programs that they could download. And then obviously what we've seen, which has been really nice, you know, when members return, is that it's like, oh, you're the instructor that I did X class with, or, you know, you're the fitness professional whose program I downloaded and I did. So you get that, you know, you get that sort of pre-warming feeling of already having contact with some of the key personnel and the product experiences before you walk into club. So I guess, you know, to answer your original question, trying to make, you know, what they see and digest digitally as real and tuned in using the different senses available, you know, as they would experience when they, you know, in real life. Those are probably the key things we focused on.
Okay. Before I jump to the other panelists, I'm interested in the video component that you talked about there. What is your experience? How did you go about that? Is that something that's kind of homegrown, or did you work with an external provider? What do you think? How do you tackle that whole content piece to make it, you know, really part of the third space?
Yeah, I mean, we actually did it in-house. So we hired you know, a proper videographer and a team, you know, to essentially do most of the filming and editing. And obviously we were lucky enough that all of our trainers were available, you know, and had the time. But it takes time, you know, particularly with, you know, one thing that you notice straight away is some of our fitness professionals hadn't done any of this before. So like everything, you need practice and repetition before you get it very sharp and very slick and to the point. So I think, you know, for a bigger brand like us, where we've probably got more access to resources and you know, investment to do that sort of thing, we decided to take it on in-house, as we probably realized we'd need to do it forevermore. Therefore, having a team to do that was the right thing to do. Whereas maybe some of the smaller boutique brands or people starting out, you know, might want to partner with a specific, you know, media house or company who could help them produce some, you know, assets as a project to get them going.
And do you do that in your live studios, or do you have kind of separate broadcast studios that are designed specifically around the online content?
Yeah, it was quite interesting actually. So we developed one of our studios pre-pandemic into what was an academy where we deliver quite a lot of our fitness professional training. We have a number of in-house programs, as you can imagine, that we put our personal trainers and group exercise instructors through. And our head of academy was obviously delighted that he got a new studio and room. Unfortunately, that was only to be converted into the new digital filming studio during the pandemic. So we were lucky enough in one of our biggest clubs, in our Canary Wharf club, which is a 100,000 square foot club where we've got sort of 6 or 7 studios. We had a space that we were able to, it's quite interesting if you go there, because half of it is set up like a HIIT studio and the other half of it is set up like a yoga studio. So you walk into the room and it's like, it's a bit of a film set. On your right is like, you know, rubber floor and dumbbells and kettlebells, and on the left is, you know, beautiful wood laminate with trees and yoga mats and whatnot. It's like, where am I? So yeah, no, we had a particular space that we took and converted, and so we now use that sort of forevermore to produce those assets.
Love it. I will have to come and check that out one day.
Yeah, come and have a look.
Well, okay, so Christian, I'll come back to you now. What other advice would you have in terms of what operators can do to sort of build on their their omni-channel offering as things start to open up more. And obviously, as we said, the UK and Germany are kind of at different points in the cycle. But what are you thinking about, and what advice would you give on that front?
Well, I'll definitely give it from our perspective, and what we aimed to do was not so much to replicate at home what you have in the club, since that wasn't going to work for us. So my advice also in that direction would be, because I think the consumer has had a taste of, hey, there is more that I can put my hands on, and I believe that how we can all grow out of this, including the consumer, the member, is, and if we have an excellent offer in the club, a good quality offer that attracts people to us, and then in addition to, you have essentially not a copy paste, but an extended offer for the consumer to go through at home. And not only at home, because this is the beautiful thing, this is something that he could take with him on his travels or wherever he would be. So in other words, my advice would be, make sure that the quality offer in your club keeps attracting people to come in on a regular basis, and have an excellent offer on top for your members to go through at home, so that there is essentially a very good value proposition to be sticking with you.
That's great advice. And Andrew, how would you think about that? Would you agree with Christian?
Oh, absolutely. So as a new club, we've had a set of priorities where now we're actually considering a digital offering in that sense. We've got benefit of kind of seeing how some fantastic platforms have already done it, and so we've got an incredible space. Our studios will lend themselves really well to creating that digital content, so we can look forward to later on in the year where there's a natural kind of seasonal lull where, like Christian mentioned, people go abroad and things like that, and we want to extend our members kind of reach back to the club, so whilst they're away, they can still interact with us, because some members have great relationships with our group trainers, and so they miss that interaction if they're away. So that offering to us is something that we're planning right now, ready for that summer period.
Got it. Okay, I wanted to sort of change gears a little bit back to the consumer. Just a quick reminder as we go through. We're into sort of the last 20 minutes or so of the session. So if you have any questions, then feel free to add them into the chat, and we'll come to a few questions from the audience in a few minutes here. But before we do that, I want to get back to the consumer, because we spoke earlier about the changing consumer needs, the evolving consumer, and clearly you've all seen an online shift, or in your case, Andrew, just an online presence within your businesses. But do we think this is going to support the growing market? What do we think the consumer expectation is going to be in 2 years and beyond? And Andrew, I'll stick with you for that one for now.
Sure. With regards to the technology aspect of what we offer, a simplification, making their access to the club easier. We're proud of our kind of ease of access. It's all automated through our app, scan through. So any kind of progression around that will kind of obviously be welcomed. With regards to online, again, we're looking towards that as well. So that's kind of in terms of our consumer side, where we think that we're going to be investing. But beyond that, I've got some kind of hesitation as to how far we'd want to go in terms of taking the experience away from the club. I think, we're a people business, and we don't almost want to create barriers or kind of limitations between that. So I think the automations and technology would be on an operator standpoint more so, and just kind of aid the experience of our members instead.
Great. John, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I think Andrew's right. You know, technology is definitely going to be there to aid, remove any friction. You know, any kind of hassle factor of coming in, membership cards, communicating with the team. I think there'll be a growing expectation for kind of zero hassle to do with, you know, that essentially will be resolved by technology. So I think that's one for sure. I think the point that Christian made, you know, if your bread and butter is within the four walls, then don't lose sight of that, you know, and the consumers, like hotels, have been around for hundreds of years. I think clubs will, and members seek that experience in the club. And so they'll still want that in a couple of years. I think, as you know, you probably heard Emma mention earlier, and as I mentioned too, that things are changing. So I think, you know, more mature markets are wanting to look after themselves and work out more. And younger markets, you know, now health and wellness is part of what they do every day. So there's definitely an opportunity in omnichannel to build some of those connections. You know, you heard me talk about holidays and getaways and events, and I've noticed some of the boutiques doing things like you know, club nights and throwdown nights, you know, where members get together and train and, you know, go for a meal or something to eat after. I think there'll be a lot more of that. And I think the wearable point is a really important one. I mean, we've been a long time partner of MyZone, and we're definitely looking at how we can double down on, you know, using that to bring together online communities and in-club communities. And I think for a London-centric business, you know, some of our clubs are residential based, but some of them are classic financial districts. So, you know, Canary Wharf in the city. Some of those clients might never go back to working, you know, 5 days a week. So having a presence, you know, and a good presence to offer them workout solutions is, you know, when you're charging £200 plus a month, it's a good way of demonstrating value, because, you know, our consumers are intelligent, and they will break down their club visits versus their non-club visits, and they'll associate in a value. So the more I think we can, you know, use technology and digital to bring value to the overall proposition, that is going to support us, you know, moving forward, as well as across, you know, all of the different generations, which are all just becoming, in my view and what I see, more health and wellness focused. So I think things will just accelerate in the natural path that they're going.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. What we're talking about the consumer, I want to actually jump in with a question which has come through from one of the attendees, Mohammed. So and I'll open this out to all of you, so feel free to jump in, but have the panelists noticed an increase in stress and anxiety amongst their members during the pandemic? And if so, how have they adjusted their offering?
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
So I would say that we have noticed that some of our members have come with a level of anxiety, and there are a number of reasons that they may be focusing on. One is personal reasons outside of the gym, and some are for the space itself. Now, with regards to the space itself, we've made physical measures to ensure that we've created a space that is safe, clean, hygienic, non-intimidating. And for those who need a hand, we have our fitness team on hand for inductions. So we want to make sure that our members are confident on the gym floor. So we've created a class of gym fit classes so that people don't feel like outliers when they're on the floor. These classes encourage people to kind of get used to the equipment and socialize with other people on the class on the gym floor. With regards to the front of house team, again, like I mentioned before, we relieve ourselves of certain automated duties so that we can spend more time with our members, because having those relationships really kind of bring out those conversations and those concerns, and we build those kind of that feedback loop into our business model. So where we've had some people kind of be wary of the gym floor, created gym fit classes, nutritional classes. We've set up certain studio classes as well. And that's how we've kind of managed our members in that sense.
Got it. Christian, John, anything to add?
Well, yeah, since we had, I don't know, the luck, if you want to call it that way, to open up in the middle of the pandemic, one feature that we had thought about previously and that we certainly included was, because it was very relevant, not just the hand sanitation gel. Of course, we added that to the entrance, but we actually had a complete station. So you had a coffee, water, and tea station, and we had a hand washing station on the floor, so that it was highly visible, almost in the center of the club. And we used that in our induction of members that would come in to highlight this to them as an example of what you can do for yourself, but also for others, and how considerate, let's say, we are handling the situation that they're in. So in other words, to sort of maximize the feeling of safety that they could have when coming in.
I actually wanted to add, as an extension of that, we've seen that exact same thing. We were lucky enough to be designing the property during lockdown, so we created a user journey by using their app, where they could access the building, go downstairs into the change rooms and back onto the gym floor without having to touch any surfaces. And we have an excellent cleaning team who kind of take pride on the gym floor. Those sanitation stations that you mentioned as well, Christian, those are scattered and well used around the building. The equipment wipes that we use are antibacterial. The ventilation systems are kind of well over engineered so that we've got plenty of fresh air. So it gives a level of confidence, just like yourself, so that people can focus on the exercise or that time on themselves.
Yeah, we really, what we saw is probably three types of member coming back. So we had what I call the superheroes, who just weren't fussed about anything. It was just let me back at it just like I used to. And then probably the sort of sensible passives who were, broadly passive, but every now and again curious about were things being done in the right way. And then very, very anxious individuals who were very, very nervous about safety and whatnot. And it was just about, making sure that we understand those different types of members. Third Space was all about being cool. It still is, but cleaning became the new cool. And so all sorts of specialist machines and equipment and whatnot, and a big focus on capacity in classes, obviously. One thing we found, actually, because what you have is members become extremely comfortable with having far less people in the class, which may not necessarily suit the economics or structure of the business. So actually working quite closely to what the government guidelines are or were certainly aided us to get back to normality a little bit, because, particularly with yoga and mind and body, we had studios that had 35, 40 people in that went down to sort of 15 to 20 people, and many of the members wanted it to stay that way. So it was just about finding a happy medium and understanding the different individuals that you're dealing with and looking after them in different ways, I think.
Helpful advice, thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about member engagement as well, as we talk about the consumer. Really relevant and interesting question from Phil that's come in, which is about managing member engagement within a hybrid model. So what Phil says is that in-club group exercise has always been a retention-rich activity because of the physical engagement, which is never going to be translated perfectly to at home. So how are you getting feedback from members? Who is asking the questions? How was that? Have you tried? And so on. Are you doing that with human interaction or technology, or both?
Well, we did it actually. We didn't do that through technology. Obviously, when things through the various communication channels popped up, we did. But in the situation we were in, we either had the members in front of us, which is obviously easy enough then. On the other channels, I would say it was rather quiet. I mentioned before that the the German market is a rather conservative one. So I would say that the consumer here also prefers to have a, let's say, yeah, the face-to-face dialogue when it comes to his gym experience with us, after all. So technology really didn't form a substitute for us in that matter. But I mean, again, our situation was we were either closed or open, and we didn't have a full substitutive program at home for them. So that was never a substitute on our side.
It's probably two main methods for us. So for digital products, particularly group exercise, we just had to survey those who downloaded the workouts. So obviously we've got the technology to tell us who's downloading them and who's doing them. And so then it was just a question of, through automation and just contacting those members and saying, what did you think? Did you like the music? Did you like the programming? Is there anything we can change? So that was kind of the main way, I guess, of driving quality and making sure the consumers are happy with what they're getting. It's slightly different to engagement, isn't it? I think as I mentioned earlier, that's where wearables, I think, can really bridge the gap between in club and online. Obviously, Fit do that quite well. They've managed to embed their the heart rate monitor system and leaderboards into classes. They're obviously an app-only based product, but we're certainly looking at how we can integrate it, because if you've got your in-club community and you're running a challenge, and you've then got your at-home community who are locked in and doing the same challenge, you can use your technology to group them all in a community and have chats back and forth. But I agree, it's in its infancy, isn't it? So I'm sure it will get easier as tech gets sharper, but for now, that's probably what we've got our eye on.
With us, we've had this great feedback loop with our members. We have all these different channels of if we need to receive any feedback or suggestions, things like that, they all exist. We have them digital and paper-based, but what you'll find is that the members will come up to reception and we'll have a good old chat and understand what their concerns are or what their requests are. So that's been our main source of kind of, pushing things forward, just understanding the nuances of what those concerns might be. I think with certain kind of digital formats, you may lose some of that subtle information or the emphasis of what someone's engagement might be. So somebody may perform well in the class, but do they actually enjoy it? Will they return? And that feedback loop really helps once we kind of get them down to reception and speak with the team, because they'll tell us like, hey, that was good, but you know what, that aspect wasn't my favorite. But that really kind of pushed the success of our classes.
Thanks. So Sean has asked a question about views on gamification, and I wanted to link this to a semi-related question, which is that there's a lot of discussion at the moment about the metaverse and the role that it plays in more digitally connected experiences. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, do you think this trend provides an opportunity for hybrid? Is it something you're considering, or do you have any other thoughts on gamification as it stands? John, Christian, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll give you a quick, interesting piece of feedback on it. If you look at the cognitive training, as we call it, that we offer in the club, it's based on the skill courts concept. So essentially, we have a small court which is laser measured, and you get essential little assignments on the screen, and you have to execute, obviously coordinating and perhaps even doing it on speed. But the older people can do it at their leisure and still get, points and the right answers and so forth. So essentially it addresses everybody. And I consider that gamification in the club. So it's good for you. It trains memory, it trains reaction, but it's fun. So the interesting part, however, is that if a member leaves something out of the full workout that they will do in our club, it would be first that one. So knowing that, we're not essentially looking at putting this into our hybrid model to deliver this kind of offer at home. Anything that I'm saying is for now. I don't say it's going to stay that way. I mean, I do believe in gamification. I think gamification is a great motivator to get people moving. Perhaps we'll just have to look for a better way to do that and integrate it, and then also get that into the hybrid setting. But this is initial feedback from what we've experienced now.
Great, thank you. John, Andrew, any final thoughts on metaverse or gamification?
I suppose a couple from me on gamification. The wearables are doing that now, and we've seen that work really well. So when we run challenges, with our MyZone partner, our members get really involved in that. We can run multi-club challenges. Our team love it. When we run team challenges. So that's in play at the moment, and I think that'll only develop. And there's lots of opportunity to do more of that, which I've touched on already. In terms of the metaverse, 6 months ago, I probably would have said, yeah, I'm not sure about that at all. But I've had so many conversations in the past 2 months about, virtual reality boxing concepts, virtual reality strength and conditioning concepts. And I think for me, personally, and maybe our brand, it's just a question of keeping an eye on it, leaning into it, and waiting to see what good looks like. You saw the example of classic Les Mills getting involved and doing it to a reasonably high quality quite early, but it looked more Nintendo than fitness to me. I think that's what it will look like for now, but I think it's just one thing that we have to keep our eye on. And as soon as we do it, as soon as we see someone do it really well, I think that will probably be the moment in time where more people jump on it and get into it. So I don't think it's one to be ignored.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on gaming?
I think with any new technology, it's also a question of timing. I think we're looking at a new technology that's in the innovators or early adopters phase. So for the mass kind of early mass public, or even the later kind of majority, you find that it has to go through a phase of development before it's more accessible for them. I can't imagine that many people could be running towards this as a replacement for their workouts at the moment, but as with any technology, 5 years is a long time, and it'll be interesting to see where we are there. It's also a question of the cost benefit. What does it provide that a traditional workout doesn't? And again, those are great questions, but 5 years is probably an interesting timescale to find out.
It's going to be interesting to see how that evolves over the months and years. That's for sure. So we are we're almost up a minute away from time here. I'm not quite sure what's happened to the last hour, but I can see we have some other speakers and panelists chomping at the bit to get on with the next session. So thanks for all your questions, and thanks to the panelists for taking part today. Just to close things out, the question that we asked at the beginning of the session was, is the hybrid model here to stay? And we talked as we went through, my initial part, I talked about these three different types of evolved consumer: the permanently evolved, the temporarily evolved, and the connected. I'd just like really to hear all three of you. What is your perspective on where does your consumer sit out of those three buckets? Are they permanently evolved, temporarily, or do you see this connected route forward? Andrew, I'll start with you on that.
Sure. I'd categorize our members as probably a combination of the first two categories. I think people aren't necessarily looking for more tech in their life. I think a simplification of tech is probably where they are more interested in seeing how that could work. As an operator, for us, we welcome the hybrid model. It just helps us. It supports our business, and like I've said before, it relieves the pressures of time where we can spend more time with our members. So no, I think hybrid's here and it's growing and it's developing. What will be super interesting is in years to see how AI gets involved and interprets that data and understands the experiences as well. So for us, we're positive about hybrid.
Thanks, Christian.
Yeah, I wouldn't limit the answer to just our members, but to my perspective on the consumer in general in this market. And I'd say they've permanently changed. I think they will be looking for what they got a taste of from here on forward to stay. I don't think it will ever, substitute doing your workout in a club altogether, but I do think they'll want some more of the good offer they've seen.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, similar answer actually. I think the majority of people's perspective has changed. I think some people will be back to where they were more traditionally, and some people will be at the completely other end of the spectrum, and some will be in between. But generally speaking, I think there has been an acceleration of different platforms to consume fitness. And I think that is here to stay. And so I think, hybrid, omni-channel, beyond the four walls, whatever you want to call it, I think is here to stay for sure.
Thanks, John. And thanks to Andrew, Christian, and John for joining me on the panel today.